Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to take a look at the astrology of October. Before I dive into that today, a couple of announcements. One is that my camera, super Mercury retrograde stuff going on for me today. My camera died, so for some reason I accidentally left it plugged in. So I'm on my old web camera for today. You can see the broader view of my office. The other thing is that I'm really excited to announce that um, for a couple of years now, I've been running a separate and private password protected playlist of videos that are exclusively devoted to the topic of Bhakti Yoga. Um, Prior to today, people had to navigate my website and go through a complicated sign up process. It was all free. Um, in order to get that content because I was trying to find a way of kind of compartmentalizing my daily astrology content and this specialized bhakti yoga content. And today I decided that, actually, over the past few weeks, I've decided that I would release that content and make it public, just unhide the playlist. Well, little did I know that when we made that playlist public that you might have suddenly gotten barraged by like several hundred, or I think at least 100 videos from the back catalog of my Bhakti Yoga playlist. So if that happened to you today and suddenly you're like, Achuta just made like 100 videos about God and Bhakti Yoga. Now you know why. We were not anticipating that they would hit subscribers with notifications. So we're really sorry about that. But that playlist is now, that entire archive is now open. And if you go to my website, you can also check it out. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. And typically on Wednesdays, I release a Bhakti Yoga talk to that private list. If you go to my website and click on the Bhakti tab, you can go down and there's a little intro video about what is Bhakti Yoga. And then a huge archive of videos that I've done answering questions from people who belong to that list. So viewers of that channel have written into me over time and given me tons of questions to write about and or to make videos about, I should say. And so there's an entire catalog now on my YouTube channel. And if you go and you'll see a Bhakti Yoga playlist in my YouTube channel. It's always been there. It's just been unlisted. So Bhakti Wednesdays is the new title of the series, and they'll be released Wednesday evenings. And every week there'll be a new video that's now just public rather than private. The main reason that I made it private rather than public was because it's really important to me that people be listening to that content because they want to. And so I didn't want to, I try to make most of my content in terms of the philosophy and the spiritual dimension. There's elements of bhakti yoga in everything that I produce, sometimes more explicitly, sometimes more implicitly, but a lot of what I do is also very universal. I'm considering, perennial spiritual philosophy from all over the planet. So these talks, you'll see them come up. Like the first one will be launching this evening, September 29th. You'll see it'll say Bhakti Wednesday, and then it'll have the title of the talk. And that's how we're formatting these so we can make them available to people, because what we were running into is that more and more people wanted access and we're having trouble with the password and all sorts of stuff that we were constantly having to deal with. So we'll just make these public and let people watch them. By all means, you guys, I want to make sure that people know that, if you're not into bhakti, it's no big deal. My regular astrology content will still run on Wednesdays and just once a week on Wednesdays for those people who are interested in bhakti yoga and learning more about that dimension of my own spiritual life and practice. There'll be a video and really good Q&A series, lots of good questions, lots of good talk about bhakti philosophy. So, but I wanted to make everyone aware that if you were suddenly inundated by like 100 notifications today, that's because in the attempt to make that whole archive public rather than private, somehow it acted as though it was publishing it for like the first time. And it looks like everyone got hit by like a wave of a ton of content all of a sudden. So no, this channel is not suddenly becoming a yoga channel. It's dedicated to astrology, and you don't have to be interested in bhakti. You don't have to watch those videos if you're not interested. But for people who are, on Bhakti Wednesdays in the evening, we'll have a new video every week. So thank you for letting me take a moment to explain that. And again, my apologies, because the last thing I want to do is like spam you with a ton of stuff. 100 videos all at once was not what I had in mind for today. So at any rate, that being said, what else do we have to get through today? We're going to talk about the astrology of October. There's a ton of really good things to talk about. I'm going to take you back to my website, remind all of you that my new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, is also starting on November 13th. Let me show you how you can find it. You're probably used to me talking about this by now. I've been plugging this every day. You can go to my courses page, click on the first year course of nightlightastrology.com, scroll down to learn all about it. If you have any questions, you can email me, info@nightlightastrology.com. The next group begins November 13th on Saturdays. You can participate in the live webinars, or you can follow along at your own time. All of the class content is archived for you to download and keep. And you can follow along at your own pace, on your own time, downloading audio, video. There's tons of extra material, homework, quizzes, optional quizzes, flashcards, bonus reading, videos, a discussion forum, breakout study sessions, additional guest lectures, ton of content. There's an early bird payment. You can save $500 off a 12-month payment plan, and need-based tuition. So that is, again, starts on November 13th. Hope to see some of you there. I also apologize for the lengthy amount of preamble to today's video, and thank you for your patience. All right, let's pull up the real-time clock and take a look at the astrology of October. All right, so this month has a lot of really exciting astrology in front of us. We're going to begin on October 1st and sort of work our way through the month and just highlight the major transits of the month. Now, those of you who watch my channel regularly know that we are going to be breaking down each of these transits as the month goes on. So, every transit that I talk about today in brief, we dive into in depth on my channel. So a little preview. Remember, the very first of the month, something we've been talking about this week already on my channel, that's happening again on the 1st of October, is Mercury's square to Pluto. This is its second square. I've covered this at length already on my channel, so I'm not going to dive into this at the beginning just because it's very first of the month and we've done a ton of coverage on it already. But that is how the month begins. Getting into the month, though, a little bit more, what really defines October for me starts on the new moon. On October 6th, we're going to see a new moon in the sign of Libra. And this new moon features basically a conjunction with Mars. Now, that conjunction with Mars is really interesting because it's happening over the course of about 3 to 4 days worth of almost like a big log jam in the sign of Libra between Mars and Mercury. So check this out. So this is the new moon right here. You can see this in Libra. And let's move this forward a day. What we're going to see now is Mars is cazimi. It's at the heart of the sun, and it's being, in a sense, reborn. It's beginning a new synodic cycle with the sun. So we're seeing a kind of rejuvenated Mars. Then what's happening is by the 9th, we're going to see all 3 planets coming into the cazimi, depending on how you measure a cazimi. There's a few different ways. But here now we see Mercury at the heart of the sun through its retrograde and Mars at the exact same time. We're going to spend a good amount of time on this transit because it's about 3 days long and because it's just a very powerful and rare configuration to see both Mercury and Mars sort of right at the heart of the sun, and while Mercury is retrograde, of course. So this is I would immediately say that what we're going to watch for with this one are going to be the mental and executive qualities. So when you think of mental qualities, you think of Mercury. When you think of executing things mentally, you think of a Mars-Mercury dynamic. So this is an empowered moment of decision-making, strategizing, addressing difficult situations with tact, carefulness, strategy, fairness, balance, symmetry. Also, this is a moment of being empowered to do something or sign something like a resolution or passing a law or almost like you're going to, this would be the day where someone like serves you papers from the court or whatever. This is also the kind of day where if there's something controversial that you need to say, but you have to find an effective and kind way of saying it, maybe that kind of thing is coming about during this transit. But again, this is such a rare configuration, and it's a very powerful mental, intellectual, communicative configuration in a sign, of course, that has a lot to do with tact and grace and balance, but also attention to formality. So we're going to be looking at that one again in depth. And that happens right between the new moon in Libra and about the 9th, where we have Mercury conjoining with the sun. And if you push this through a little bit, by the next day, Mercury's going through the conjunction with Mars. So within a 1-day span, 3-day span, you have Mars at the heart of the sun. Then you have Mercury at the heart of the sun and Mercury conjoining Mars as both are separating from the sun. That's right after the new moon. So the 6th through the 9th of October sets the tone for the entire lunar cycle to come. And it's all about that triple conjunction. We're going to be talking a lot about that and the kind of mental, social, intellectual qualities and the executive, rational qualities of the mind and how they're trying to make peace with something. Or how they're trying to address or tackle like a difficult situation where maybe multiple people are making different kinds of demands on you. So, wow, that's an interesting one. Now, this happens right as on October 11th, Saturn is stationing and turning direct. Now, this is good news because, anytime a planet is moving direct, it usually, especially when a planet is dignified, like you could argue about malefics retrograde versus malefics direct, because some people will want to have that conversation about which is kind of easier to deal with, a retrograde malefic or a direct malefic. But for me, when a well-dignified planet is turning direct after being retrograde, it means that you're going to start getting a more effective version of that planet. And also, we're seeing not long after that by the 19th of the month, we go forward just a little bit more, that Jupiter in Aquarius will also be turning direct. So we're getting those two planets in Aquarius turning direct. And if you look, one of the things we're going to talk about in my monthly horoscopes will be whatever the whole sign house of Aquarius is in your chart, you might notice a pretty significant change or shift of momentum, where if you feel like you've been catching up or feeling a lack of inspiration or motivation, or if things have been temporarily delayed or set back, or feeling a little bit inhibited or prohibited, then you might notice a change of momentum and things starting to shift and gain again in a positive way, gain momentum again in a positive way in the whole sign house and the topics pertaining to that house. So that's one thing we're doing in the monthly horoscopes. Now, that series of planets turning direct on the 11th and 19th comes in the middle of the month. And I think that's, again, two things we'll be spending some time talking about this October for sure. The full moon is also a really interesting one this month. If we go forward to the 20th of the month, you're going to see the full moon is in Aries. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about this is that this full moon is picking up on the sun's square to Pluto, which comes just a few days earlier. So if you're looking as the full moon is building, like around October 17th, the sun is going to square Pluto, and then we get the full moon coming through. The other reason that that's super significant is that just as that is happening, Mars is also going to go into a square with Pluto. So you get right around the full moon time of the month, let's just broadly say the 15th through like the 22nd of the month. And there's a lot of Plutonian dynamism and a sort of explosive Plutonian energy coming through. Sun Mars with Pluto can be very nuclear, very enlightening, very reviving, revitalizing, something that adds a lot of strength and a sense of power and confidence, but it can also highlight the darker aspects or elements of power, the ego, and and so forth. So this is definitely a transit where we're going to see the battle between Mars and Venus, the qualities of peace and balance set against the qualities of strength and achievement and accomplishment or dominance. Those themes are going to be really, really strong because remember, Mars is currently debilitated in Venus's sign. And we're going to see, and remember, Pluto in Capricorn, Capricorn is the exaltation of Mars. And then we have a full moon in Mars's sign of Aries. So a lot of really strong Mars energy coming through right around the full moon. And again, that's around October 20th, but it's going to last beyond that because right after October 20th, by the 22nd, Mars is passing through the square to Pluto. And that's going to be Mars Pluto squares tend to, be like, how can you explain it? It's like a, what do they call it? A powder keg that's ready to blow. It has the feeling of detonating, and it can be very nuclear. Release of pent-up energies can be very good and revitalizing and empowering, like a lot of empowerment energy around this one. But, empowerment with Pluto can sometimes come at the cost of things kind of coming up suddenly and strongly and kind of, knocking things over, so to speak, and becoming potentially like damaging or, it's almost like it's so strong sometimes that, it's almost like if you, it's like a puppy that's so excited, has so much energy, but it'll like wreck your house. It's a little bit like that, trying to paint it as nicely as possible. So destructive, but regenerative forces coming through around the full moon. I think that's the bottom line. And again, you'll see if we go backward a little bit, you can see this coming in as early as just during the waxing gibbous, which is right around October 15th, 16th. We're going to see the sun go through the square to Pluto, which can also be very empowering and very illuminating the depths of things and bringing up the deeper unconscious material for us to see. Issues around father figures, authority figures, power, strength, etc., tends to come up. Then what happens? Again, we have the full moon in Aries, followed by Mars square Pluto. That sequence, I have to say, along with the opening sequence of the new moon with the Cazimis of Mars and Mercury, these are the two key components of October, the new moon and the full moon areas, because again, at the new moon, you're getting that major stellium between Mercury, Mars, and the sun. And that's very powerful. We spend a lot of time talking about that. And then the full moon, which is going to have the sun square Pluto, full moon in Aries, Mars square Pluto. So a lot to be revealed from the Plutonian depths within this cycle. And again, one of the great things to remember about Pluto is that Pluto is ultimately a life-giving planet. If you think about Pluto, you often think about death and darkness and intensity and transformation and crisis and all of that. But also, you think of Pluto like a major rainstorm that's needed in the middle of a drought. The rain comes so hard and so heavy that it's a little destructive. Maybe it washes some things away, but everything is healthy again, and the green starts coming back, and everything is like, thank you, we needed that. So it's something that we need around the full moon, and an empowerment that comes, and it's very strong energy. Now, a little confrontational, but we're going to be trying to maintain the peace with Mars in Libra in Libra and Venus's sign. But this kind of powerful regenerative force is really the theme again of around the full moon. So okay, I'm rambling a little bit. I apologize. So let's go to the 26th. On the 26th, we get Venus in a square with Neptune. Venus is square to Neptune. It's very romantic, a very dreamy transit. I love that both Venus and Neptune are in Jupiter-ruled signs during this time, and that Jupiter is moving forward again. Venus will be coming into a sextile with Jupiter. This is a really nice uplifting energy in the air, especially after the Plutonian deluge of the powerful release of the full moon. Then we have a really nice, pretty harmonious Venus Jupiter sextile with reception, and then Venus square to Neptune, which can be, of course, there's always the dangers of the sort of romantic idealization or aggrandizement, or getting lost in some kind of day tripping. But there's also the potential for imagination and love and romance and beauty and healing and grace and art and sensuality to be on the rise and to be supporting us with a sort of aura of good fortune. So I love that that's coming in right after the full moon, because the full moon's pretty intense. Now, then we get to Venus sextile Jupiter by the 28th. So exactly as I was just saying, after Venus squares Neptune, it immediately sextiles Jupiter. I think it's a really nice combination there. And then probably at the very end of the month, we see Mars ingress into Scorpio. Nice to see it back into a sign where it has a lot of power and strength. So we'll see Mars picking up its dignity significantly. And then right at the very tail end of the month, the sun will square Saturn, which can be a little bit more contractive or can point to a refocusing of our energies. This is as the last quarter moon is coming through and we're starting to push toward a new moon cycle of kind of contractive energy at the end of the cycle. It's actually setting us up for a big expansion in the following cycle, because the new moon in November will feature a new moon opposite Uranus. So something's contracting, though, around the end of October. The very end of October, there's a sense of having to get serious, focused, the limitations and constraints coming in for a short period of time. Mars changes signs, gets real serious and powerful. And then as the new moon of November comes in, then there's this rapid expansion of Uranian energy. So that's pretty typical, by the way, for the past year to see the contraction followed by rapid expansion, because we have Saturn and Uranus in a square with one another, sort of a planet of contraction and planet of rapid evolution and change or revolution, squaring one another. So when a planet hits Saturn, then it hits Uranus, back and forth. So we're going to see a little bit of that back to back from the end of October through the new moon in the beginning of November. Anyway, so these are some of the biggest transits of the month. And again, like I can't help but go back to that new moon. I mean, look at this, guys. This new moon that comes in right around October 6th. That's such an interesting and rare configuration to have a cazimi at the time of a new moon between Mars. So it's like that's toning the cycle ahead, this Mars and Libra energy. We're going to talk about that and like what to expect from the whole lunar cycle, given that that's the starting point and that the moon, that big Plutonian full moon, is the midway point. And then if you go 6th to the 9th, again, it's like, look at that, by the 9th, look at this configuration of Mercury, the sun, and Mars all really there in cazimi configuration. Depending, again, some people will measure cazimi a little bit more narrowly. I tend to look at planets all within the same degree of the sun as being in the cazimi. So really super interesting. I've never seen it in my career. I've never seen that triple conjunction like this at the time, like of a new moon. Like it's just a really interesting one. I have the sense that, that there's going to be an attempt to negotiate things, to work things out, to find compromise and resolution and harmony and agreement. But it's also like Mars is driving a hard bargain. It's just like there's a lot of people or different things that we're going to have to try to please, or it's like three different people at a table, trying to negotiate something, and it's going to be really tricky to figure out how to get everyone to come to an agreement. And it could be tempting for things to blow up and go nuclear by the new moon, by the full moon. But I think the point of the cycle is going to be working through it and finding diplomacy without becoming passive or losing our own important stake in the matter. So anyway, lots more to come for the month of October. I thank you guys for listening to this rather long video today with a bunch of announcements. Remember to check out the Bhakti Yoga archives if you're interested in that. And tune in on Wednesday nights. You'll see a video posted. It'll say Bhakti Wednesday, and there'll be a talk of the day. You don't have to watch those, obviously, if you're not interested in Bhakti Yoga. It's just for people who want to go further with that particular aspect of what I teach. And that, again, like that component of my life is really important, but I had been dedicating a whole kind of private area of my YouTube to that talk only for people who were interested and sort of signed up, because I didn't want to inundate people with it. I've decided to make that public for people, so it's just a little easier to access. And, you'll see it on, it's a Bhakti talk. And if you're not into Bhakti, you don't have to tune in, but that'll come out on Wednesday nights. And for those of you who are interested in yoga philosophy and things like that, hopefully you find it interesting. That's what I've got for today. I hope you guys have a great month of October and stay tuned for horoscopes. Well, hopefully my camera will be back and my head will be on straight and Mercury's retrograde will have given us a little break. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye.